back to Gum,
a podcast you can chew on. So today's topic is
serial killer.
How do you want
should
to
we
introduce it?
talk about Ted Bundy first? Because, that's, recently come out and everyone knows about that just now. So,
Yeah, I just finished this tape, so
what do you think about it?
I'm not completely uncomfortable with
No? How so?
His voice doesn't make you feel gross inside.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, when
Yeah.
you hear most serial killers' voices or anything, you feel
Chills.
gross or repulsed.
Well, I see a lot
But
of
his
people
are like
I
the
think
tapes and stuff. They're
they've
so
edited it.
comfortable.
They've edited it very cleverly because you only hear snippets of his voice through the first 3 episodes. So you're not getting that. Oh, he's got like a normal voice, shall we say?
Mhm.
But then during the 4th episode, you're like,
So everyone talks about how the way he comes across is only chilling because he sounds like a normal person and because he's so attractive. And that's the whole thing behind that. Because if someone's attractive, they're not usually seen as someone that could be evil.
Yeah.
During his confession bit, he's whispering, like, yeah, you'll find her head here.
Does he say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes, I can't remember which victim it is he's talking about, but he killed her. He walked, like, a deserty kind of style, walked up, and I think it was another 100 yards, and then buried her head there.
And he told them. I thought in all the tapes he, never sort of,
No,
he
it's one of the
didn't.
last ones.
It was, 10 years he said, no, it wasn't me, and then right before he was getting executed, he thought he would confess to try and stop him from getting executed.
because he didn't tell them everything. We still have victims that we haven't found of his because he basically said, I'll tell you them and get me off the death penalty, and he didn't, so we don't actually know.
So he admitted to 30, and I think that was only 30.
But we still don't know how he goes.
So he predicted anywhere from 30 to 100.
Well, he said it was in the triple digits.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Or he held. I can't remember what he did, but he was kind of subtle about it.
Yeah.
But it was saying.
One of them said when he was telling them, he was started holding up his fingers and flashing his fingers as different numbers, and you're like, oh.
That's awful. He's so clever because there was the technology around about the time was nowhere near as good. He got away with so much.
Well, I mean, it's the fact that he managed to get the first 4 victims. 2 of them were taken independently on different days. There was no physical evidence that they could find at the time, and then he took the other 2 in broad daylight from what was it? It was like a park or something where there was hundreds of thousands of people, and he went over and they even had his name. They had witnesses, and they still didn't find him.
That's the thing that annoys me the most is why did he use his real name when he was picking up all these girls?
Because he was that egotistical that he wouldn't get caught. Even when you see him in the court cases, when he's defending himself, and he's like, oh yeah, you've no proof against me, and then they say that he almost makes himself out to be like Jesus, and that's what sets the jury off. I think that was the one with the little girl. It was a completely separate case. They tried him for that.
If he hadn't had such an ego, he maybe would have got away with it more. There's so many ways that he could have gotten away with it, but he just got a bit sloppy, especially with the driving. Most of his convictions were speeding.
But the teeth marks as well. He, as soon as they brought that out in the court case, he went quiet.
Yeah.
No. And then before, when they were trying to get the teeth marks, he held such a fuss, and then he kind of went back in that ego stage, okay, I'm not gonna prove their minds. But
that really stressed me out when they took him aside, and it seemed like quite a scary sort of, because they were trying to scare him into talking, but it was so. I just really didn't like how they went about that. They took him in a van, made him think he was gonna get driven around and disposed of, and then they take the teeth. It really creeped me out. I really didn't like that they went about it like that.
You wouldn't get away with that nowadays.
No, definitely not.
I read an article, and going back to the chopping off the head things, he kept a few apart, as trophies.
No, usually they do. Serial killers usually take a trophy.
Usually it's the earrings the person's wearing or a piece of their clothing. No, he kept the head.
It could be anything. Some take teeth.
Yeah,
the teeth is
very personal to them. I can't think who it is, but I know someone used to take some of their teeth. Not all of them.
Yeah.
Teeth is a good one though. They don't like to get caught if you take the teeth.
Yeah, they don't break down.
Exactly.
So that's why
you know who's getting killed. So if you found this jar of teeth and you looked into it and these people turned out to be missing, you definitely just screwed yourself over.
Yeah. I'm keeping the heads. That's pretty damning evidence, to be fair.
Is it okay if we move on from Ted Bundy to Jeffrey Dahmer, just thinking about the trophy aspect?
Yeah.
With Jeffrey Dahmer, I was watching Dark Tourist, and he went in to talk to this woman that was his lawyer, I think, and he drew a picture for her of this shrine that he made. So Jeffrey Dahmer was well known for taking men, particularly raping, killing them and doing all sorts of like gruesome, nasty things. So really interesting, really disturbing. His shrine was composed of 2 like whole bodies on either side, mainly decomposed, with only sort of like, well, not decomposed but deconstructed, with just the hands and the penis left, because that's his favorite parts of the male. He had this like this like weird like lamp. He had this weird lamp that was on the table, and with all these like the way the bulbs were like reflecting off of like, I think it was 5 skulls, which sounds kind of like creepy and cool to see, but also like, and then he had this chair right in front of this shrine with all of this like, you know, disgusting bits and pieces and kind of beautifully creepy things he would just sit on and just admire. Sometimes he would just sit there and just look at his work.
I only read about him because I didn't want to watch his documentaries and that time because he creeps me out.
He's really clever.
The one thing that got me was his confession about trying to make zombie sex people for him. I don't think that's
Did he do that?
Yeah, did you not get that far?
No, I've got like
So,
lots of research on, but not that.
What he's admitted to doing is trying to drill a hole in their brain.
Yeah.
I think the plan was it wasn't going to kill them, but
It's almost brain damage.
yeah, so that he could just keep having sex with them.
Yeah.
But the problem was they slowly started bleeding from the brain and they ended up dying.
Well, yeah, actually, in the film I was watching, it's not like the best film. It's like just called Dahmer, like made in 2002. And what it is a sort of reenactment of all the sort of killings he does. One of the ones where he takes this boy. It's really clever, like how he lures him out this like shop. So he sees this boy as attractive male in the shop, and he's looking at this pair of shoes. You know, obviously admiring them, wanting them. And Dahmer comes along and goes, "You want those shoes? Like, I'll buy them for you." And he goes, "Oh, okay. But if you let me take some pictures of you." So he made out that he was like this photographer, and he just like saying that you're an attractive guy, like I want to take some pictures, you know, use that in my portfolio, whatever. Really, really clever. So he ends up taking this guy back to his apartment, and he makes him a drink, and in the drink he puts in like the date rape drug, which is what he like used for everyone else. It's a really strong sedative anyway. And he gets the guy to just sit down, relax, you know, sit in the chair, puts the TV on to get him to relax. So you can take these pictures of him in this chair with the shoes on. And the guy drinks the drink and starts getting like really messed up as the sedative. And as his like eyes are sort of closing and stuff, he's taking pictures. So, you know, he's thinking that that's normal, that's what's going on. And he had this thing where he would lie on the chests of his victims and he would just listen to their heartbeat. Not necessarily when he's going to kill them, just listen. Really, really weird. He drilled a hole part of the way into this guy's head. I can't really remember what happened to this guy, but he did almost escape. And he went out onto the street, and these women were there and they tried to help him. And obviously at the time, like, these were black women, and the time, you know, police and that, they're not going to listen. They called the police. They tried to get help for this guy. Dahmer comes along. He could have let the guy go, and he was like, "Oh, that's my friend. He's drunk. I'm gonna take him home," because he was still like really out of it. The girls were like, No. He doesn't want to go home with you. He doesn't know you." But the police come anyway, and they completely disregard everything the women were saying because they're black. And obviously they just don't listen to that. They let this man go because of like white privilege to take this guy home with him, even though he has no proof that he knows him, and he's completely out of it. And like everything's saying that he shouldn't be going home with him.
Yeah.
I think he does further stuff to his brain because like obviously does the whole bit. I can't really remember.
From what I found, just from his nickname alone, is enough to keep you out because he goes on to eat people.
Yeah, such an interesting individual, but it's so creepy. Like one of the things he did as well, like he used to go to these gay bars and he used to take that sedative with him. And even dudes that wanted to have sex with him, he wanted to take advantage. He liked having that control. So these gay bars had like rooms upstairs, so they would, you know, you went there for one thing a lot of the time. Yeah. He would sedate these men and take them up there so he could take control and take full advantage. And he would take so many men in like one night. And there was this footage in the film that I watched where he got to the point that he got so drunk that he got kicked out and he wasn't allowed back there because they watched him and they witnessed him pouring the drug into the drink because he was so drunk, like he wasn't paying attention. It's awful.
Yeah, was he got
14-year period or something like that?
Yeah.
I think so. Do you know how many people he killed?
I have it written down. Someone said it's about 17 young men.
For his sentence in prison, he got 937 years. So that's quite a few consecutive life.
He was supposed to be getting the death penalty the night before, but apparently he was beaten to death in his cell.
Yeah, he was killed
by other.
I'm kind of not surprised. That happens a lot of serial killers.
Surprised.
Yeah, most of them don't survive in prison.
No.
It's awful. Well, it's not awful. It's good that they get what's coming to them, but they're kind of missing the justice system, and then maybe they're kind of happy to go out that way. Maybe they provoke it.
Maybe.
In fairness.
Possible, but it also depends on their crime is and who it's against.
Yeah.
I guess like rapists or like child murderers and stuff, they tend in prison.
Yeah.
The moment they go in,
As soon as anyone finds
they're
them,
just
it's that
shut down.
I think that 17-year-old boy.
Yeah, the one from
Recently?
this year.
Yeah.
Oh,
He has to have 2 guards with him at all times
The problem
because he's had so many death threats from inmates.
The
They
thing
all
is-
want to be the guy that
so
kills him.
what exactly happened there again? I can't remember.
he
You touched on
lured. I don't even know if he lured her so
No,
much.
he climbed up. It was like
He kidnapped a young 6-year-old. I'm pretty sure he had raped her and then he stabbed her a bunch of times.
it. Actually, I remember we
And
were
he
doing that in
was
class.
he was trying to pin it on the dad's girlfriend.
I bet he thought he
Yeah.
was being so clever about it as well.
Oh, yeah.
The only reason this blew up more as well was because he's known to be quite attractive. One of
The
the
Ted Bundy.
yeah,
case.
that's the
Yeah.
thing. They
Yeah.
glamorized him a bit, so because the Ted Bundy tapes are coming out, people are like, "Oh, he's like that guy." You know, you don't expect
Yeah,
him
he's
because he's like handsome. He's alright looking.
He's a pretty white boy basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, if he'd been black, and I don't mean to go into like a racial issue here, do you think he would have had any sort of glamorization as much? I don't think it's a bit much of an issue now.
Oh no, if
But-
he was black, that would be worst person ever. Don't let him out of jail.
Exactly, because
All the rest
some
of
of
it.
these newspapers are still quite racial.
Mhm.
Not like all of them, and I'm not saying like they all are, and I'm definitely not saying it's much of an issue now, but it
This-
still is an issue.
Well, if he was anything other than white, I mean, we say
Yeah,
we,
we say black 'cause
black.
it's the most common thing you hear about. But if he was Hispanic, Asian, like
Even then, yeah, that's
Muslim,
still
if
something
he was
very
Muslim,
just-
he would have been
Okay,
black.
I think at some point this is something we should touch on as white privilege because I think it definitely is.
Yeah.
Also,
So you
we're,
have to read about it.
and we're white, and we
All
kind
three
of
of us are
yeah,
white.
we're all 3 of us are white. We're quite lucky, and we don't notice it as much because we get a lot of privilege from it.
Yeah.
We don't even
That's
realize
it.
it half the time. That's all like parts to like that, and I do think certain areas are different.
Yeah.
We're quite a small city. We're obviously gonna have see less of that.
Speaking about like how people are brought up, the biggest argument people use for serial killers is they were brought up in bad households.
Yeah,
And
Nature
I'm
versus
using-
nurture.
I'm using Ted Bundy as an example again because he wasn't brought up in a bad household. He was brought up with his mom and that, and even she said in interviews he was never told to disrespect women the way he did.
yeah.
The thing that he blamed it on at the very last minute was things like pornography, which is the biggest debate out there.
Yeah.
Pornography, video games.
The
Some of
thing
them
is,
are.
I did Are Criminals Born That Way? I did that for my advanced higher modern studies dissertation.
Mm-hmm.
So it was 3 chapters, and it was whether physiological, biological, whether there's something physically different about them,
Mhm.
sociological, how they're brought up, the
Yeah.
community they're in, or whether it's psychological, whether they have a mental illness or something associated with that. And basically, I came to the conclusion that it could be any of them.
Yeah.
People are so different. There's
Yeah.
no one way.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
it's
I would
not
not-
all criminals have a mental illness.
I'm going to throw a spanner in the works for here. Jack the Ripper, don't know his identity, don't know if it's a he or a she.
Actually, I think I don't know if he's been named, but they actually have his DNA because someone had a coat or they had a blanket
Yeah.
with his blood on
I
it.
like the
Yeah.
And they
minutes,
found
yeah.
it, so they actually have his DNA. But I don't know
But
if he's
we-
actually been named, but it was like,
Was that a guy?
They think
I'm
it's a
pretty sure it was-
woman. There's
I can't remember.
speculation that it's a
I
woman
heard
because it
there
could
was-
have been like a midwife.
Well, we're going to go down the whole route of we don't know if he's man, woman.
Yeah.
I'm just going to refer to him as he because it makes sense with the name Jack
Yeah.
the Ripper.
yeah.
Don't know who he is, none of that. But he killed at least 5 prostitutes, I've got written down here, by slitting their throats and their abdomens, and in some cases removed the uterus. Why they became a killer? What would your theory be on that? And why he went for prostitutes and removed the uterus?
See if it was a woman. Like, I'm just, obviously we can be quite opinionated on certain things. Maybe, what if it was a woman that hated the thought of prostitutes? Maybe her husband went with a prostitute, and the fact that they're a midwife, they know about the uterus
Yeah.
and stuff. They could totally remove
See,
that.
The alternative I've got is if it's a woman, she couldn't have kids.
That was what I was going to say.
Yeah.
My theory
So
is
she
she's seen
wanted
these,
to take that away
yeah.
from.
she's seen these
other
women
people.
going
Yeah.
out having sex all the time and wasting the gift of childbirth, something she couldn't have.
That makes
So she-
a lot of sense though,
But
doesn't it?
As if it's a guy, I can't really, unless he was abused by his mom.
You know what?
That's
The,
maybe a
the,
good.
the thing is men are always seen as like, I mean, especially back in that time, it's like more powerful. So
Yeah.
obviously they put it to a man, but
Yeah.
maybe it was a woman. And then
I think
also a
now-
midwife, they walk around with their things and they probably
Yeah.
have blood on them. They're not going to be looked at any different
Yeah.
because like they've just come back from we're doing the work, like
Yeah.
or come back from removing a uterus from a prostitute, like.
I think nowadays the theory that it's a woman fits a lot better than it does a man who just
Yeah.
hates women.
Because, well, let's think of it from another perspective, and let's think of it if it is a man. Why would he have such a vendetta against women, especially prostitutes?
His mum abused him or abandoned him when he was younger.
Maybe a certain religious household?
Yeah.
Significant other, he was rejected by someone.
Yeah.
Or sees prostitutes as lesser because they do have.
Or maybe-
Maybe it was a
or
religious
maybe-
thing where he thought that they were sinning
Or-
and stuff, and he
And well, it was in Whitechapel, so that theory works as well. But I'm thinking maybe it was in a time in the 1800s, things like being gay and that really just wasn't a thing at all.
Oh.
So maybe he couldn't get turned on by these women, and that was his only way of
Arousal.
that's
going doing for it.
yeah, that's something pretty common in a lot of
Yeah.
serial killers is they can't get it up,
So
or they
they-
struggle to, so they take out on the woman because it's
It's the
They're-
woman's fault instead of their mechanic, shall we say.
yeah instead of something.
That's interesting as well.
He is one of my, like, not saying favourite, but he's the one that I always like to look up and watch videos
He
about.
wrote
But
a
it's always
letter
did.
to the police. I think he started getting
It
really
was like
cocky about
it was a taunt.
Can we look that up? This is interesting. He wrote it in red ink as well.
Yeah.
What
to
like?
say-
What dramatic though.
I like that though.
I
That's
mean,
quite
he could have went
clever.
the extra mile and just, took some blood and wrote in that. But,
Well, it's possible it was. I don't think they could test for it.
not especially not back then.
So should we read the letter?
If you want.
The letter goes like this. Dear boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I've laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. That joke about leather apron gave me real fits. I'm down on whores and I shan't quit, ripping them till I do get buckled. Grand work the last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and I want to start again. You will soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write with, but it went with thick like glue and I can't use it. Red ink fits enough, I hope. Haha. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police officers just for a jolly. Wouldn't you? Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work, then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp, I want to get to work right away, if I get the chance. Good luck. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. Don't mind me giving the trade name. P.S. Wasn't good enough to post this before I got all the red ink off my hands. Curse it. No luck yet. They say I'm a doctor now. Haha.
Well,
It's
that
the-
goes this theory that he was trying to write in blood then.
Yeah, so he was trying to when he mentioned
think-
that. He does send him the ear.
That interesting bit at the end where he's like, they call me a doctor now. It kind of fits with the whole
Midwife.
she's a midwife thing that we just
But it's
spoke about.
funny, like that's giving me goosebumps a little bit. I think it kind of makes sense. It's just the way that it's like talking as well seems almost like, I don't know. I think it's a woman.
I'm starting to believe the woman angle now
Yeah,
too.
I
Yeah.
can see that. I think it just seems really relevant. I don't know. I really hope that they do find out. Like, when was the DNA like discovered?
I don't
Was that
know.
ages ago?
I don't know. I'll see if I can look up.
Because if that was like a recent, I want it to be a woman. Like,
Yeah.
because that'll be one of the first, like, going into like a segue.
Yeah.
That'll be one of like the like female
I was
serial
just
killers.
a way to segment
Yeah, 'cause-
onto Eileen on this one.
Well,
Right.
Eileen's fascinating.
'Cause
but
she's,
I'll try and see if I can find
She's a
it.
prostitute, which fits with what we were talking about.
Come on, Eileen. Come on, Eileen.
It's not the same spelling.
Oh,
It's A-I-L.
You know
in this
what?
one.
You know what?
So
For
she
the
doesn't
purpose
deserve
of
herself.
this, come on, Eileen, and she's a prostitute. That's
God damn, Sam.
fine.
You don't know a lot about her, do you?
No, is this? Well, I
She-
think that's partly. But
She murdered 7 men in Florida between 1989 and 1990, so it was in a year.
were these the men that cheated on their wives?
She claimed that the men were raping her or trying to rape her because she was a prostitute.
Yeah.
But I think in her mind, she thought they were sinners and she was taking them out.
well, what it was is she said that the ones that she killed, while they seemed like really nice guys, they were actually really, really abusive, and they tried to abuse her and hit her, and it was I had to defend myself. So she said, that she only had a gun in order to defend herself.
How did she kill the guys?
Point blank range, so they were sitting like the
Yeah, it
distance
was-
between me and Carl.
So she only shot them.
Yeah,
It
she
wasn't
shot them.
brutal.
Several times usually.
Just
Hold on, I'll see if I can find it.
Okay, see that doesn't strike me. That could be an act of self-defense. So it's not necessarily serial.
But it was
killing.
it was what she did afterwards.
So what did she do after?
What she did was she took everything from their cars that could be used to identify them. So receipts, ID, the license plate, everything that you could use to identify whose car it was gone. And most of the time, I don't think the police ever found it. There was stuff like that, and at least one of them, the only way they identified whose car it was like the serial number on the engine.
See, I'm not trying to justify it, but it could just be a way of being like, I don't want to get caught for this. I've done this as self-defense, but I know I could get in trouble for this.
I think it's more the fact as well that she killed 7 men.
Yeah, that's because it's quite a lot.
Yeah.
But then statistically, especially in that profession, how many men would she have slept with in that profession, doing her job, getting money
True.
from? That is such a low number of people that tried to like abuse her.
Or so she claims.
Or so she claims. Maybe
Yeah.
there was more, but
Yeah,
but
there
the
could
thing
have been
is
a
that
lot
she
more.
only killed 7. That's maybe how many she slept with.
Well, they reckon that she had a mental illness because her final final words were before she was executed by lethal injection. It was, "I'd just like to say I'm sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus June 6th. Like the movie Big Mothership and all, I'll be back."
I love that. I love that.
Do you know who she reminds
Yes.
me of? I'm gonna wait, go completely off topic here. There is a mother in America. She drowned her children in the bath. I think it was 6 children for Jesus, I think. She was really mentally ill, and the dad had gone to work, and next thing he knows, he's getting a phone call saying, "Yeah, you need to come home. Your wife's killed your children."
So was it like a sacramental? Was that why she killed her children?
I can't remember. I remember watching a documentary on it. I don't have notes on it.
There was a woman, and I can't remember if it was us that talked about this. There was 2 women that worked in a hospital. Do we know about this?
Yeah, yes.
SSD.
This is the ones I find particularly
I can't
interesting.
remember what their names were.
Okay, we have Kathy Maywood and Gwendolyn Gwen Graham, otherwise known as the Deadly Nurses.
And they worked in a partnership. They were quite cool.
I don't think they actually had that high of a kill count per se, but their method of killing was burking, which is when you smother them by placing their hand over their mouth and that, it's called burking, and then basically it's suffocating, but specifically when you just cover the mouth and the nose. They had 5 victims, all elderly, so 60, 95, 89, 79, and 79.
So for the most part, they were almost like mercy killings, were they not?
Yeah, they
Or so they would have claimed.
Yeah, they claimed.
I mean, what better way to get your kicks out of having your urges thrown out there than by, like, mercy killing?
That's true. So what's the story behind them two?
So basically, they started working together and they met. The main thing is Kathy. She is effectively the mastermind behind the whole thing, or that's what many people think, because she just started working there when she met them, and they ended up effectively falling in love and becoming lovers.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
They were together, but what happened was when the author of this book, Christopher Barry D, spoke to her, Maywood, she said, "Gwen told me she killed those people to relieve the tension. Sometimes I like to say that I made it all up. That would make everyone happy, I guess." And she's eligible for parole in 1995, or she was, and she's predicted to be released in 2021. However,
Oh, wow.
Gwen got a life sentence, and that's because May went for a plea agreement. So she said, "Gwen made me do it." So when Gwen tried to say, "Well, no, Kathy made me do it," everyone's like, "Aye, okay, you're just saying that to get out of it." In reality, the author here and a number of other people, they're not trying to say that Gwen didn't do anything, because she did. She's just as guilty, but she never would have done it if Kathy hadn't been there going,
And she wouldn't be in there
do
anyway
it.
as longer. So are they in the same prison together? This is like
No, they're different ones.
Oh, wow.
oh, okay.
Or
That's
they
really
were, because Wood was at the Federal Correctional Institute, Dublin, California, and Gwen Graham was at Women's Huron Valley Correctional Facility in Michigan. They were 24 and 20.
She was released on parole. So she served 29 years of her sentence and just released, I think.
They killed their elderly victims by sitting on their chests and smothering, suffocate them by putting a washcloth over their noses and mouths while using the other hand to push the jaws off.
As a mercy killing goes, it almost seems worse because they're so vulnerable as elderly people. Some of them maybe have dementia, but they don't know what's going on. And then for that to happen, I can't even imagine how like traumatizing obviously that would be for them. It would be traumatizing for anyone.
I don't even know if I would call that a mercy
I
killing.
don't think it was. It was just because
I wouldn't.
Because-
I wouldn't. Even as a spectator that never heard this story before, I wouldn't call that a mercy killing.
So the people that they picked were just at random in the nursing home.
as far as I'm aware. And how they got caught was actually very interesting because Kathy screwed up.
Okay.
Because what happened was their last
Yeah.
victim, when they were being interviewed or whatever, Kathy was meant to be off shift when it happened, but when it was discovered, she was meant to be at the other side of the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So she wasn't anywhere near the body, but she said that the body was gross or whatever, and there was the mucus and stuff, because after they died, it turns out pretty gross and stuff, which is why they assumed it was natural. But she said that it was gross and she saw the body. But then the nurse that actually discovered the body was like, well, how could you possibly have known that? Because I was the first one who noticed it. You weren't on shift and you were meant to be at the other side of the hospital. So when she got arrested, she went, Gwen did it.
But that's like ego coming into play, like thinking
She
they'll
was-
get away with
yeah.
it again. So like, oh yeah, I've seen it. It's gross. And it's like,
Yeah, she was trying to play the hero. She was like, you know, it was like, oh yeah, no, it's terrible. I
almost
saw
like,
it. It was really, you know.
do you know what it actually kind of reminds me of in a weird way? People that would set like fires and that just to be the ones to put it out.
Yeah.
It's an actual illness now. I can't remember what it's called. But
Like arsonist.
no, it's an actual thing where heroes and like they want to be the hero of a certain situation.
Yeah,
but like 9 times out of 10 it doesn't actually go to plan and people
Yeah,
end
it's
up
like
being
it's
really
like
hurt.
doctors.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll
Yeah.
like hurt someone, like attack them, you know, and like semi-kill them,
And
and
then
then
resuscitate
so that
them.
they could be the hero and be like, I'm a doctor, I'll help them, and then bring them back to life.
Mhm.
And then that victim will be like, oh, you saved me, thank you. But 9 times out of 10, they get a bit too into the whole
Yeah.
injuring thing, and they
Mhm.
can't.
I think it could be that, but I also think it could maybe be like them trying to leave a little bit of a trail, just to be
Yeah.
like, you know, like a subtle hint, like, you know, like Jack the Ripper left a letter,
Yeah.
just to be like,
And, like,
kind of leave
so,
that for them
like-
to like keep them guessing, but she slipped up a little bit too
Yeah.
much, but she wanted it to be like a sort of little hint. That's what I reckon. I mean, maybe not, but we'll wrap up on serial killers for now, but they're definitely something we should touch on more on.
Oh, we'll have an episode 2. Like this will be
Yeah.
our main series on
We'll
here.
try to do a segment every now and again on specific serial killers, going into detail, try and give you some chills. But in other news, let's talk about something that's a bit more current.
Obviously today it's been in the news. I don't know when this podcast will get out. 2 mosques were shot down in New Zealand. 49 people lost their lives because they were practicing Muslims. Which in this day and age I think it's getting really pathetic. This whole we have to kill Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, like, I put this on my Twitter, like, you can't fight terrorism with terrorism.
No.
And basically what everyone's doing by killing all these Muslims is terrorism.
It's controversial because everyone's associating being a Muslim as being a terrorist, and it's only a small minority. Religion is meant to be really peaceful.
Yeah. A lot of
Yes.
Muslims have came out and have been like, we don't even associate with them.
Yeah, to most Muslims, those extremists aren't
You don't
a
associate.
Muslim. They aren't. There's something else.
I think
There's something
yeah.
disgusted, and there's something
See,
they're not.
When I was traveling for like a little bit, I was on this train and I was talking to these people. There was this radical Christian who was opposite. He was like trying to shove his religion down people's throats. He was being really like obnoxious about
Yeah.
it. And there was this kid that was a Muslim that was sat next to him, and we were laughing about it, obnoxious,
Yeah.
like because it was too much. This Muslim kid, like when the Christian guy gets off the train, this Muslim kid comes up to us and he starts talking to us about being Muslim and stuff. And he went out of his way to be like, I just want you to know that my religion's like peaceful and stuff. And we were like,
Yeah.
we had no issue with your religion stuff. We understand that it's peaceful, but the fact that he felt like, you know, he had to explain his
I
religion
think
to
as
people.
well, what's important to see about this as well is Christians will never be viewed the same as Muslims. So in headlines and papers and that, you'll see Muslims have done this, terrorists, etc. You'll never
They
get
did this.
Christian and terrorist in the same sentence
Yeah.
in papers. Because if you're Christian, how can you be a terrorist?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But to be aware of that is an issue still. That is current,
Yeah.
and it's important that we're aware of that.
And us here do not stand.
No, not at all. So that's it for Gum this week. We'll be back. Bye.